What's going on, everybody? This is Brian Mazik, aka Unique Mazik, the hardest working man in sports and gaming. And man, let me tell you, Otto Porter, Otto Porter is proving your boy wrong, y'all. I mean, I'm telling you, like, I'm not getting too crazy, right? I'm not getting too bent out of shape, I'm not going too overboard with this because I understand where we are. I understand. I get it. I get it. I know this is regular season games. I know that they were playing the Grizzlies. Come on, like they were playing the Grizzlies. But you want to know what I'm most impressed with about the way he's playing, though, is I'm impressed with his confidence level. Like right now, man, he looks like, yeah, this is what I do. This is what I do, y'all. I come out here and I was just waiting to get into or find myself in an opportunity and find myself in a position where I could shine and do my thing. And dude, like I said, they were playing the Grizzlies, but this dude had a career high 37 points, 10 rebounds, 2 assists. He was 3 for 5 from 3-point range, 16 of 20 from the field, leading the Bulls to a 122-110 victory over the Memphis Grizzlies. And like I said, they're playing the Grizzlies. So defensively, the Grizzlies are not a good defensive team, right? But for whatever reason, suddenly the Bulls look like a more dangerous offensive team with him on the floor. Also, and I'm not a person who dislikes Chris Dunn, right? I dig Chris Dunn. I do. I like him. But I'm really I actually think that and some people are going to get mad when I say this. Some people are going to get mad when I say this. But I wonder, I really actually think that the Bulls they're definitely a better offensive team when Ryan Arcidiacono is on the floor. That's just my personal opinion. I think they're better. They're offensively, they flow better. The shot distribution is better. If you look at the shot distribution tonight, right? Zach only took 10 shots, which is okay some nights, right? But I thought he was very efficient. He had 6 rebounds, 7 assists. He did have 4 turnovers, but 5 for 10 from the field is not horrible. He 1 for 3 from 3-point range. He had 15. Laurie had 21 and 10 with 6 assists and a steal. And then Robin Lopez had 25. He had 25. Now imagine that's Wendell Carter Jr. in there, right? So I'm telling you, this is why I don't like is when I did a video a little bit earlier and I talked about how I think the Bulls should take John Morant over Zion Williamson. And it didn't have anything to do with not liking Zion. I feel like point guard was where they really needed the most help. And I always wanted Arcidiacono still on the team as maybe the backup. But with the way I know this kid's going to give great effort. I know he's going to distribute the ball, and I also know he can knock down an open jump shot. Right? He's not the on-ball defender that Chris Dunn is, and that might be a problem considering the Bulls don't have a ton of great defenders. Zach's going to have to step up his game in that area. But I start to wonder, man, are the Bulls in a position where now they don't have to necessarily draft John Morant, and then you got to look and say, okay, well then what do you do at that point? Well, at that point, now you have to consider, do I want to, wherever the Bulls fall in this draft, right? Do I want to package that pick with Chris Dunn and see what I can procure from a team in that situation, right? What do we, can we do that? I think that, because I'm starting to feel like I'm not expecting Otto Porter to go for 37 points every night, but I'm starting to feel like the Bulls have their small forward finally and don't have to continue to look for the small forward. Let's just talk about what he's done since he's been a Bull. So, it's not a huge sample size by any means, but 4 games, the Bulls are 2-2. In those games. They beat Brooklyn on the road, which I thought was a big win. But they did lose 2 games at home. 134 to 125 to Washington, 112 to 99 against the Bucks, which is obviously a respectable loss. We're talking about the team with the best record in the NBA. But in this time period, Otto Porter, I mean, 37 was way more than he'd gotten, period. More than twice as much as he scored in any game with the Bulls thus far. But in 4 games, man, I'm doing some quick math for you here. In 4 games, he's averaging 22 and a half points a game for the Bulls. Like I said, small sample size. He's averaging 5.7 rebounds. Um, three, I mean, just playing well, man. And the shooting, he's only shot less than 50% one time this in the 4 games. And that was he was 6 for 15 against Washington, which against his former team, which wasn't horrible, a horrible shooting day. So I'm just impressed with him right now. Um, the big thing is finding out what he does when and if the Bulls ever make the postseason. That's a big thing. And yes, the contract is significant. So you got to kind of work around that. You see what happens. But I mean, he's only 25 years old, yo. He's only 25 years old. So I see you got a couple comments here. I kind of decided to surprise you guys with a live stream. I'll probably do a few more of these moving forward. But to see Rangers King, he says, so happy people Otto Porter has proven reality that he was terribly underused and misused in Washington. It's looking like, I mean, just look at his swag though, like the level of comfort that he has on the floor. Right now, man, he looks like, I mean, his confidence looks like it's through the roof. It looks like he is so relieved to be out of Washington. I have no idea what's going on in Washington, but it's clearly there's a toxic culture there because my man is like, he's acting like Sinke from Amistad. He's out of there. Give us free. Give us free. He's out. Let's see, Scott says if we can't land 1 or 2 spot, we need to trade up for John Morant because I believe Chris Dunn's time is done here. I don't think the Bulls should trade up. I don't think the Bulls should trade up at all. Like, I think they have enough young assets to the point where don't trade up. I would say this though. If they can't get John Morant or Zion, then I would strongly consider. So I mean, basically, if they don't get 1 or 2, they fall to 3 or 4, which is pretty much where they're about pacing anyway right now. If they're there, I strongly consider packaging that pick with Dunn to see what exactly you can get in terms of a star player. And I think if you got a top 4 pick in the draft and you got a solid young point guard who still has a ton of upside and has shown enough in the NBA for people to believe in him, I think that trade value is decent for the Bulls. It's not as great. And to be honest, I wouldn't be willing to give up much else besides that, because you don't want to give up your starting power forward in Larry Markkinen. You don't want to give up your starting center in Wendell Carter Jr. I wouldn't give up Zach LaVine at this point. I think that him and Porter are playing pretty well together. And I think Archie Diacono, who had 11 assists tonight, can make sure that everybody gets the ball. Could the Bulls get an upgraded point guard? Absolutely, which is the reason why I'd say I would go with John Morant if possible. But that's the only position right now that in terms of the starting lineup that I would be looking to jump on. I still don't like Jim Boylan, so let's not get it twisted. I still feel like they could have a better coach. I still feel like they could have a better front office, even though we got to give credit where credit is due, right? So we bomb Gar and Pax, punch them all in the face whenever they do something horrible. But this looks like it's going to be a pretty good trade. And if it's not, it's at least sensible, right? It's at least a sensible trade, right? Say Azad Bilal says, I'm a Wizards fan and Otto Porter has always been good with John Wall because he was spacing the floor for him. Bull space for him, and that's why he's doing good. This season with the Wizards, he needed John Wall, and had a good stretch with Wizards too, but he needs spacing, and Wall provided that, but he is hurt, of course. Honestly, I do. Obviously, spacing, all offenses need spacing, Azad. But what I've been noticing with Otto Porter with the Bulls is he's getting his own shot a lot. And that was the reason why originally I wasn't super high on this trade or him coming here, because with Washington, we hadn't got a chance to really see him get his own shot. And I've been looking at him getting his own shot. And I'm like, I mean, so he's work. I mean, they showed a play later in the game. I think it was on his 37th, on 36 and 37th bucket point rather. They called a high screen and roll for Robin Lopez. He comes right off the screen from the top of the key and drops a jump shot. A lot of Otto Porter shots with Washington was coming with him just posted up in the corner with John Wall with the ball at the top, and it just wasn't giving Otto a lot of chance to do anything off the dribble. So maybe we just forgot or we didn't realize that he was able to do that as much. And Willie Parker says it's another worthless win. I mean, it really is a worthless win from this season, but you can't really try to put any value on a win from the Bulls that at this point. Honestly, here's the thing. I really do. I want them to suck, right? I want the Bulls to suck this year because I really would prefer them put themselves in a position to get the highest draft pick. So while I do want that, it's hard for me to not want Otto Porter to play well because think about it like this, Willie. What if Otto Porter was playing horrible right now, right? I mean, like he played 4 games, he averaged 4 points a game, shot 10% from the field. What if that was what we got, right? We would really be mad and even less hope. We'd have even less hope for next season because we'd be saying, and they made a horrible trade. They suck, and they just made a horrible trade. They just gave away Jabari Parker, who had a valuable contract because it was $20 million, which could have brought in the whole thing. What made Jabari's contract, valuable was because he's making $20 million and he's coming off the books at the end of this year. So it gave the Bulls the opportunity to trade for a high salary guy, which is what Otto Porter is, right? And then you gave away Bobby Portis, who had trade value. So imagine if Otto Porter was playing badly right now, we would really be like, oh God, really? So it's hard for me not to want him to play well. But I agree they shouldn't be winning. if that's not what's best for business, to quote the WWE, it's not, right? Willie says like they need to try to get Zion. I mean, I feel you. I can't really dispute that. Henry White says the Bulls got the better of the trade. It looks like that right now. I love Bobby, though. I do think Bobby is a good player, but I do think overall impact-wise, I think Otto can make a bigger impact than Bobby Portis. Then he changes his mind. So you don't know about that. We'll see. Andrew says all we need is Ja Morant. I am definitely on the Ja Morant train. That is what I want. That is what I want with for the Bulls for out of this draft. I want Ja Morant. It's really not. At first, I was kind of thinking about Cam Reddish, but now I think it would be overkill because I like Chandler Hutchinson ultimately coming off the bench at the 3 behind Otto Porter. So I think the 3 is just about good in terms of major minute guys. You do need some depth there, but I think the 3 is just about good. I think the Bulls could really use a 3-and-D style 2 guard to come off the bench behind Zach. 3-and-D, straight 3-and-D off that bench. And I think that ideally, so here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to set up what I think is the ideal just lineup and depth chart for the Bulls. And I'm not even going to talk about specific players because I probably wouldn't be able to come up with them and off the top of my head that quickly, but I could probably do it if I had some time to think about it. If you got Ja Morant at the point guard, you got Ryan Arcidiacono backing him up, and you need a veteran, a third point guard who doesn't play much, but is only there to basically to mentor Ja, right? Arcidiacono is the one who's going to get the majority of those backup point guard minutes. At the 2, you got Zach LaVine. Behind him, you have a 3-and-D style 2 guard, somebody who it can knock down that open 3, but one of their primary thing is they lock down on D. They come in and this is they understand that is their primary thing, right? Otto Porter's at the 3. Chandler Hutchinson's is backing him up. You have another 3, maybe a really young 3, a guy you get in the second round is the 3rd small forward. And then at power forward, you got Lauri Markkanen. Okay. You got Lauri Markkanen there. And the backup power forward, there's some different things you do. The Bulls might have to draft somebody there that and maybe if or they might have to sign a cheaper free agent, like a young free agent that hasn't played himself up to like a max deal or something like that. Get a backup power forward there. And then you got Wendell Carter Jr. in the middle. And I think I don't Felicia's a little bit overpaid to me, but he is showing some flashes. You have him backing up Wendell Carter Jr. And I think the Bulls, if they lock in and if they start to buy into what Boylan is selling, which I don't like Boylan. So this I'm not feeling Boylan really, right? But I do think that he will get the team to play hard. And I do think that he's backed up off of that hard line stance that he was doing. I'm thinking that the Bulls, I mean, the Bulls are playing harder now, right? I think that rotation of players with that depth is a team that can now start to try to move forward. But they do need John Morant to be a star. If that team is to win, they need John Morant to be a star. I'm talking about 18 and 8, 20 and 7, 20 and 8 type of a star. They would need him to be that for that team to be what they need it to be. And some of the other guys' numbers are going to drop a little bit, but it's fine because if John Morant defends, Otto Porter's going to defend. Zach LaVine needs to get a little bit better defending. Laurie started to defend a little bit better. And then Wendell Carter's going to defend. And if you come off the bench with guys who are going to defend, Archie Diakonou, Hutchinson, the 3 and D2 guard that I'm talking about, a backup power forward who's going to defend. Felicia's got to get a little bit better defensively. He's very absent-minded. He does rotate sometimes, but he's still very young. Still very young. To me, that's the type of rotation. And if you think about what I'm saying, I'm not coming up with some of these just pie in the sky, absolutely ridiculous concepts that people come up with. Well, if we get Clay and then we get Durant and then we get Jerry West, you're like, bro, come on. Like, how are they going to do that? I think this is realistic, what I'm saying, right? And I think you are looking at something that is promising at that point. So we'll see. Azaz says, I think you're right, but I also think Otto was afraid to create for himself in DC because Wizards were in a win now pressure situation. So he wanted to let Wall and Beal ISO, and in Chicago, I guess he can get a little freer. Maybe it could be. Raphael Key says need another center and forward off the bench. Yes. I would. I can see for depth at the big, at the front court because bigs get in foul trouble and then bigs get hurt also too. So you got to watch that. Azad says he's in no pressure situation, so he feels that he can create for himself without any pressure. Maybe that is what it is. But hopefully, ultimately, as the Bulls hopefully start to get better, and he finds himself in some of those more pressure situations. I did think about that today, though, Azad, as I was watching the game. I said, you know what I really hope? I hope that this is not who he is in a regular season game with absolutely no pressure against a really bad team. But if he plays against a good team in the postseason, then now all of a sudden none of this stuff is here. That's what I hope isn't the case, right? He had a decent game against the Bucks. So that's the best team in the NBA right now from a record standpoint. Played 37 minutes, 7 of 14 from the field, 2 for 4 from 3-point range. He had 7 rebounds, 4 assists, 18 points, and that's playing against Giannis. I mean, he can put up if he can put up those kind of numbers, and the Bulls have John Morant, Larry Markkinen, and Zach LaVine to carry the bulk of the scoring, and he needs to just do what he did there. I'm fine with that. I'm okay. So we'll see, though. Let's see. Straight Stun says, too bad Denzel has cement boots for shoes. I don't know what it is with Denzel, man. I never liked that pick to begin with. Like Denzel Valentine is to me just he's one of those guys that I never really looked at as a real impact NBA level prospect, even in Michigan State. Like I saw him play and I said, yeah, I remember they talked about, oh, we think he can play point guard. We think he's versatile enough to potentially play 3 positions. And I'm like, I don't know what point guard in the NBA this guy's going to guard. I don't think he can. I don't think he can guard as a point guard. I don't think he's a spectacular defensive player at the 2, and at the 3, I think he's going to be pretty small. So I wasn't ever on that train. You know what I used to say when he first came out? I said, you know what Denzel Valentine's ceiling is? Now, I didn't say this is what he was going to be. I said, this is what his absolute ceiling was. His absolute ceiling is Danny Green. That to me is his ceiling. Now, that's not a bad ceiling, depending on whatever else you have around you, right? but he's not. He hasn't become that. He hasn't become that. Now injuries have hurt him, but I think Danny's a little bit better athlete and just a more consistent shooter. You know, I saw Denzel at one point. I think it was either last year, or year before. I think it was last year. Um, he was leading the Bulls in 3-point shooting for a while, but then he starts to dip a little bit. So, and the injuries could have something to do with that. So we got to see. Scott's 8827 says again, if we land top three, there is no way we can pass on Zion or Morant because they are 100% game changers. I agree. I think those two guys are the game changers. I do worry about bringing Zion in because okay, you bring Zion in. Whose spot does he take? He's taking Laurie's spot. Somebody said, I can't remember who it was, said this in the comments. They were like, move Laurie to center. Man, I don't like Laurie Markkinen as your star center. I don't like Laurie. So Laurie Markkinen is guarding DeMarcus Cousins. You know, Laurie Markkinen is guarding Marc Gasol. You know, I don't think that, that's what you want. I think you take some of his effectiveness away because one of the things that makes he creates matchup issues, right? And I guess you could say he can create more matchup issues at the five. He's pulling guys away from the basket. But I just physically and on the defensive side of the ball is where I have the most issue with that. Um, because then now at this point you need to trade Wendell Carter Jr. because you're not going to bring him off the bench. I don't think, you know, I just I don't know. I love Zion. I mean, I literally marvel at this kid's athleticism, his fire, his footwork. You know, he's much more than a dunker, and I see that. But I also see that he is an undersized power forward whose game is predicated on athleticism. And the moment he is not quite as athletic as he is now, I see his game drastically declining because a lot of what he does is based off athleticism. He's not a great shooter, undersized. So I worry about that. Now, don't get me wrong. Like I said in the other video, if the Bulls, if I'm sitting and I'm watching the draft and I hear, and with the number 2 pick or the number 1 pick in the draft, the Chicago Bulls select Zion Williamson, I am not going to throw my beer on the ground. I'm not. I'm going to be like, let's go Dunk City, baby. This boy is going to run the floor. I'm going to buy a Zion Williamson jersey. It's just that if I had my choice, I'm taking Ja. I'm taking Ja. It just fits the team better to me. Let's see. Nas Reed in second round is backup power forward and signed Pat. Ooh, ooh. I like but Pat Bev ain't playing behind Ryan Arcidiacono. I can tell you that right now. Pat Bev, like, oh no, in my city, no. Him and Ryan Arcidiacono will have a fist fight every day in practice. And Boylan will probably like that because Pat Bev is gonna play Boylan style game. But you know what I worry about with Pat Bev though a little bit lately is his 3-point accuracy has dipped quite a bit. He had got himself up there in 3-point accuracy. And lately, maybe it's just this year, I remember paying some attention to it. And his 3-point shooting is declined a bit, I think. Let's see. Oh no, well, it went back up. No, I'm wrong. He shot 40% from 3 last year, and this year he's shooting 39%. Maybe he got a slow start or something. I don't know what I was looking at, but it was wrong. That helps a lot. Overall, he's shooting 39, just 40% from the field, period. But pretty much every shot he shoots at this point is a 3. Almost. But yeah, man, that's nasty though. That's nasty. That defense. See, the Bull, you got to have that good balance of defense and offense. And I think that Pat Beverly is the type of defensive player who sets a tone. Now he's only 30, so he still should have some run in him. But he was an older rookie. He was 24 years old as a rookie. So, I don't have a problem with that. Nas Reed in the second round. I got to do a little bit of research to see how I think he turns out. But that's interesting. Azaz says, "Are you sold on Wendell Carter Jr. as a future great center?" I don't know if I'm ready to call him great, but I definitely think he's a winner, and I definitely think he is a center. Is the center of the future. I don't think that he's anybody you need to be looking to replace unless you're replacing him with a bona fide proven stud. You know, um, let's see. Hamario says that we should draft Zion and make Dunn the sixth man. I don't like Dunn as a sixth man. I don't think that that's the best role for him. I also am almost 100% positive that is not a role he wants at this point. Dunn still wants to prove, and he's very, and I don't think he's wrong for this. Dunn still wants to prove he can run a team and be the guy. And I like I said, I don't blame him for that. I don't think that making him a six man works out. I really don't. We'll see. Scott says Sexton's just forced double overtime. Cavs need more wins. Bulls stop winning. Yes, knock down some threes, Colin. Knock them down. Hamario says he thinks that Zion is a three. I don't think Zion is a natural three at all. Like I think Zion is athletic enough to guard three positions at least, right? I don't think defensively that's his biggest problem. I just don't think from an offensive standpoint he has the type of game that is really like if Zion Williamson is the type of three, he's a very unique type of a three. I'm talking like Sean Marion style three. That's the type of like obviously far more muscular and even more athletic than Marion. And Marion was a freak. The Matrix was a freak, but even that's whose game to me he reminds me most of. But he's a little his feet are better than Marion's. He's more nimble than Marion in terms of just in like side to side agility in space type of a thing. Like he makes some moves off a screen and roll when he gets the ball after setting a screen. He'll put the ball down one time, bam, bam, the footwork to get to the basket, and then obviously the explosion is there. But I still think a lot of it is based on athleticism, and I just he makes me nervous. He does. Azad says Lillard and Curry going back at 4 on threes. Obviously, yeah, I don't have it on right now. I did see Ennis Cantor chose the Blazers over the Lakers, which was interesting, which doesn't actually surprise me. But yeah, it's 93-91 in the third quarter. I'm telling you, NBA games are so high scoring now. It's just crazy. Let's see. Hamario says, I think Coach K and RJ Barrett hold Zion back as far as seeing his full game. Maybe. I'm sorry, you said it's Kamari. I'm sorry. It's a zero there. I didn't know if that was an O or I apologize. And see, Aiden Vega says, I like that hat. I appreciate it. People say, like, why do you wear, like, if you're from Chicago, why do you wear like stuff from other, teams from other cities? Because the stuff that I wear in terms of sports stuff, I don't really wear, shirts and I don't wear hats and stuff like that based off of the team that I like. I wear the hats that I like, the hat, like I just wear it. Like I love baseball hats, period. So I got so many baseball hats, like it's crazy. And I just wear the hats that I like. Now as far as a jersey though, I don't wear a jersey of any player that I don't like. Like I would never just get a jersey just because that jersey looks sweet. You could have the best uniforms in the history of the world. If there's not a player that I kind of like identify with and connect with, I'm not wearing the jersey. So jersey is kind of where I do the whole personal thing. Scott says, I get what you're saying about Ryan Archie Diakonou. He said, but we need more firepower for bench. Valentine probably going to be gone. Then Hutch will develop well. I don't know if it depends on. They need, what you need on the bench? You need somebody who can create, right? You need somebody who can create offense. And Archie Diakonou is not the type of guy that can create offense. That's true. So you either need somebody that can create or you need somebody who can score in a post. And so the bench that I kind of called out is not really a team that can create because the 3-and-D guy at the two guard is not a creator. Randy Archie Diakonou can set people up, but he can't really create offense for himself. Chandler Hutchinson, we don't know if he can create offense for himself. It doesn't look like it at this point. And that 4 probably isn't that guy, and Felicio definitely isn't the center. But here's the thing. Very rarely do you see an entire bench unit on the floor at the same time. So maybe Josh sits down first and Zach stays on the floor for a little while. And Zach always plays with the second unit as the creator. And that's also when Zach gets a chance to go off offensively and kind of have things run through him. So that's an approach that you can use with the Zach, with the bench, to try to make sure that you have some scoring for that second unit when they come in. Andrew says the Lakers are a sinking ship. Yeah, it's looking tough, looking pretty tough right now. It absolutely is. Izaz says, what you think went wrong with the Bulls playoffs era? Was it Butler himself or Chicago really had to rebuild and were forced to do it? Well, anybody who ever watches my videos and seen me on At Me Bro show, so if you're not familiar with the At Me Bro show, if you haven't subscribed, make sure you do that. It's a show that I do with my friend Nelson Blake the second. We talk about gaming, we talk about sports, a whole bunch of stuff, and it has its own channel. So I'll make sure I'll put the link to the channel in the description in case you guys haven't watched it. But one of the things that anybody who watches me knows, and I'm not the biggest Jimmy Butler fan at all, right? I know Jimmy Butler's a very good player, but I think Jimmy is a locker room chemistry killer, and I think that he and Dwayne Wade like really, contaminated the Bulls locker room at the time. I was really disappointed with the way Wade handled himself here. Really, really for sure. I appreciate you, Raphael. I appreciate you coming through. God bless as well. I was really just, yeah, I wasn't. He left a really bad taste in my mouth about the whole way he played. Duke on, and it shouldn't have been that way because we're talking about a Chicago guy, but it wasn't great. But I think the Bulls did need to rebuild. I'm not a person that like, oh, I see why you said you like that hat, Aiden. I didn't even notice the Texas Rangers logo. Um, I'm not the type of person that likes to just be competitive. I don't want the Bulls to just be competitive, right? You're sitting up here and you're in the 6-4 range from a playoffs standpoint in the seedings or whatever, and you like that's just okay. I call that the Memphis Grizzlies contention because the Grizzlies in the grit and grind time, they did have a couple good years where they were up there and they made it fairly deep, won a playoff series or whatever. But the Grizzlies never felt like they were real legit NBA Finals contenders to me. They never did. They felt like they were a competitive team. But if you're not winning a championship or if you're not close to it, to me, you're losing. You're losing. I don't care what's going on. So you have to be moving in that direction. And I don't think that with Jimmy that the Bulls were moving in that direction. I really don't. I honestly don't think that any team with Jimmy Butler as the best player or even the second best player is ever going to win a championship. I just don't think his attitude and the way he carries himself and the way he handles and deals with teammates is conducive to that. That's my opinion. Perhaps he'll prove me wrong, but that's what I see. Kamari says Coach K has a thing where he won't adjust in game. I don't know why he finally implemented a change during the Louisville game with the zone. Also, Coach K doesn't do RJ and Zion pick and roll, which baffles me. Yeah, you don't see that a lot with him at all. They use it with Jones and Zion, but you don't see RJ Zion pick and roll like hardly ever, which is kind of weird. It's kind of weird that you don't see it as I've seen it, but you don't see it as much as you see it with Jones and Williamson. So yeah, I agree with you there. Kamari also said LeBron seems to be the cancer on the Lakers. He doesn't buy into Luke's system, which is the reason for the struggles. Not to mention he doesn't play defense and nobody calls him out on it. Well, I can't say that because how many games did the Lakers win when LeBron wasn't playing? Like one, maybe. Like, so I can't blame it on LeBron. I mean, that's what happens when you're the greatest player in the league, or when you are the man. You are the man. You get way too much credit and you get way too much blame. That's just pretty much the way it goes. Everything that ever goes wrong with any team LeBron is on is always going to be his fault. That's just what it's going to be, right? The Lakers, people forget, the Lakers are not a championship level team. Just because LeBron is on the squad doesn't mean that that's what they're supposed to be. They're not a championship level team. And on top of that, they've had a ton of injuries, not even including LeBron's injury. So I can't throw that on them all to get on him. That team has a lot of problems. And the other thing is, LeBron isn't the only one on that team that is unhappy with Luke Walton. So I'm just saying, I mean, I do think like you just said, Kamar, there are people that are talking about um, Luke. So I don't know if we can say that LeBron is the cancer in the locker room. We all know how LeBron is. We all know that LeBron has afforded himself a ton of sway and influence everywhere he goes, and he uses it. I don't think we're anybody is used to seeing a player use their influence as much as LeBron does. And I think that puts people off a little bit because they're not used to seeing it. But it's what he does. Let's see. Scott says, like you said before, the team, the Bulls is fixable, manageable, but the front office and coach need to go. Got to cut the head of the snake to move on and contend. I really do agree with you there, Scott. I do. I really do. I guess sometimes you kind of get caught up and you start feeling, some type of way about what you're seeing, especially when you see some glimmers of hope. But at the end of the day, man, you're right. I don't think they can win a championship with this management or with this head coach. So, and like I told you, that's what I'm looking for. I want a championship. I want another one. I was here and around for all six. Um, I go back all the way as far as my first favorite player with the Bulls was Artis Gilmore and Reggie Theus. Those guys. And then they had Quentin Daly and Ricky Sobers and Ronnie Lester and Granville Waiters and Charles Oakley came a little bit later, but Orlando Woolridge and David Greenwood and Sidney Green. And, that was the teams those were hard. Dave Corzine, those are horrible teams. Kyle Macy, those were bad teams, man. And so I felt like I had suffered up until 85, 84, 85 when Mike came. And then things just started getting better and better every year. Then you suffered. This is just the way it goes, This is the way it goes. We've just been down for a while, but we'll see what happens. Um, let's see. Azai says, you think Chicago Bulls fans are the most loyal fan base in the NBA? The Bulls fans, we close because the fact that the Bulls have not been great for so long and that people, they still have this consecutive sellout streak going. That's pretty crazy. That's pretty crazy. I don't know how many other franchises could lose this long and still maintain this level of support. I don't know how many could do it. So I don't know. Shay Hafner says, you might have mentioned this in the video before, but what do you think of the Pelicans turning down the Lakers' insane offer for AD? You know what? I think that the Pelicans would have been dumb to do any trade before finding out what exactly the Celtics had to offer them. So I think that because the Celtics have so many draft picks and they have such a collection of talent, and if you trade Anthony Davis, you are completely rebuilding and nothing helps you rebuild quite like draft picks. Because Boston has that type of a package that they could put together, I think that even if you do ultimately deal him to the Lakers, you owe it to yourself to listen to what they have, what they're willing to offer. And they probably have an indication already of what they're willing to offer if they hold on. So I think that has a lot to do with it. Andrew says, before the season, everyone's saying the Lakers would be a bottom tier seed. Just think people's expectations are too high. Plan all along was to get the young players some playoff experience and sign free agents this offseason. That was the plan, but LeBron is one of those presences that when he's there, people are not going to ever think about, that they're not really trying to make the playoffs right now. And that's one difference between him and Mike, and I love LeBron. LeBron's one of my favorite players. But that's a difference between him and Mike. Once Mike became Mike and he hit that stride, there was never a year ever. And I can't imagine a situation where and LeBron's not in his prime anymore. He's not. He's as great as he is. He's still not. He's not in his prime anymore. I can't imagine a time with Mike where we felt like, they probably aren't going to make the playoffs. But then again, Mike at this age Mike didn't have to play with the type of talent that LeBron has to play with right now. Not saying it's the worst talent ever, but Mike was playing on championship level teams in his mid 30s. You know, when he was gone for a second, but when he came back, he was playing on championship level teams. So it's a little different. It's hard to it's not an apples to apples comparison. Trudell Rice is no, I don't think it's the Knicks fans. No, he said no, I don't think. No, I don't. I think it's the Knicks fans because they haven't won nothing and still sell out. That's true, but a lot of that I think is just it's New York, and that's the Garden, and there's this mystique that's attached to the Garden. Ain't no mystique attached to the United Center. Ain't no mystique. You ain't seeing no superstars. There's no celebrities in the crowd. There's none of that, Joe. It's on the west side of Chicago. It ain't none of that going on, you know. So I don't know. I still think the Bulls there a little bit more. Kamari says, "What happened, Stacey King? Why wasn't he a star? He was like the number 3 pick. I think Stacey was. I think Stacey was the 7th pick. I want to say. He came out of Oklahoma and he played with Mookie Blaylock and he played with Horace Grant's twin brother Harvey Grant, and he was a heck of a scorer in college, heck of a scorer, but he was never a great defender. He wasn't fleet of foot. He was a traditional back to the basket scoring big. That's what he was. And there were times when he got a chance to really play, and you know, he's proved that he could score a little bit. When the Bulls traded him the 93-94 season, he played for the with the Timberwolves in 18 games for the Timberwolves. He started 15 of those games. He averaged like 12 a game. That's the best year he ever had. You know, best numbers he had. He was the 6th pick overall in that year, the 89 draft. So I don't know. Now that draft wasn't great though. It had some decent stuff in it. But before him, right, like 2 picks before him, the Miami Heat got Glenn Rice and the Spurs got Sean Elliott. But what I always look at is who did the Bulls pass up, right? Mookie Blaylock was in that draft, as you know, him and Stacey came out together. So that was a guy that they could have had. Nick Anderson, Chicagoan, went to Illinois, went number 11 to Orlando that year. Tim Hardaway was number 14 pick. So there's that. Sean Kemp was the number 17 pick. BJ Armstrong, who the Bulls also drafted that in the first round, came out that draft, and he was 18th overall. That is Vlade Divac was the 26th pick that year. Yeah, and doesn't like there's much in the second. Well, Cliff Robinson was a 2nd round pick. Dino Raja was a 2nd round pick that year. Sherman Douglas he wasn't a great player though, but yeah, the guy who's now a referee, Haywood Workman, was the 49th pick in that draft. So I don't know that. I mean, Stacey was a part of the championship team, so you know, kind of is what it is. Andrew says favorite Chicago Bulls players of all time got to be the GOAT, Tyrese Thomas. Yeah, I remember that. Should have been LaMarcus Aldridge, and they traded LaMarcus Aldridge on draft day for Tyrese Thomas. That didn't work out so great. Kamari says, I don't think the Pelicans are going to get more from the Celtics, being that AD basically said he won't resign. I didn't know that he didn't say he wouldn't resign with the Celtics. He listed they. First of all, here's the thing. Here's what you always got to remember, and I'm saying this from the experience from what I do. Right, I'm a journalist. I've been writing for 10 years. A lot of these reports that come out and say so and so reportedly said this, and according to sources, many times those things are not correct, especially when they're talking about what someone or what a player wants to do. A lot of times that stuff isn't correct. If you knew sometimes how headlines get constructed, it would be like you would probably sit and listen and be like, is that how that started? And I'm not saying all the time. Sometimes there is truth to it, but there's a lot of times those things aren't. And I'm not saying that Anthony Davis wants to go to Boston. But what I'm saying is Anthony Davis hasn't actually said anything. We're talking about what someone is reporting, a rumor or something to that effect, because Anthony Davis would never come out and say, I'm not signing in Boston. He would never do that. That's just why paint yourself in a corner like that? He would not do that. So these are rumors according to sources type thing. So you got to take those with a grain of salt. Angelo says, "Do you think it would be wise to sign D Rose to a contract this summer?" I would love it if they did. Um, I think for me, like, let me just preface something, let y'all know for anybody that doesn't know. I love D Rose more than I love the Bulls. I some people feel some type of way about that. But I always go with this type of a mentality. People over teams, right? People over businesses. Derrick Rose is my favorite player of all time. He's not the greatest player of all time. Michael Jordan's the greatest player of all time, and then he definitely is on my favorites list. But Derrick Rose grew up like 10 minutes away from where I grew up. He played for my favorite basketball team, my hometown team. There ain't nothing that's going to go beyond that. There's nothing that's going to go beyond that. So I would love for him to finish his career with the Bulls, but I would prefer for Derrick Rose to play for a team where he can be an integral piece in a championship team. That's what I would like to see. And that's not what the Bulls are right now. And I don't know that the Bulls can be that during the rest of his career. So I would prefer him to go to some place where he can be a six man, win a six man of the year award and a championship, because I think that that does a great deal for potentially making him a Hall of Famer. And that's what I would want more than anything. Trudell says, and B colon C. Yeah. Andrew says, why did we pick Marcus Pfizer? Marcus Pfizer. Marcus Pfizer could score, man. He could score in college. The thing about Marcus Pfizer, the difference between Marcus Pfizer and Zion Williamson is pure athleticism, because they're about the same size. Zion might be a little heavier, but Marcus Pfizer was a big guy, but he was nowhere near the athlete that Zion is. He's a little bit better shooter, but just nowhere near the athlete Zion is. So he was a tweener, though, just like Zion. Azaz says, where do you rank the Bulls' young core in the NBA? Top 5, top 3? I don't know if I can say that yet, because I don't know if we've seen enough for them to say that, for me to give them that high of a ranking. I do think that it's a promising talent, core of talent, but I think they need the right direction. And so I think it's a little too early to say top 5, top 3. All right, guys, I'm gonna dip out of here in the next 2 minutes. I'll probably leave at 11:45. Let's see. It says, Scott says, do you think the Bulls rebuild with Jimmy Butler trade was smart? I love Butler, but he is not a LeBron caliber player and lead us to the finals. We needed to rebuild front office back then. I like the Jimmy Butler trade. They got Larry Markkinen for him, Zach LaVine, and Chris Dunn. I think that was a good trade. Minnesota doesn't even have him anymore. They got Robert Covington, and just they didn't. And Minnesota's not a better team for it. So no, I like the trade. I like the trade. I think all three of those players are either contributors with the Bulls, or there's somebody that is going to be moved that is going to bring back assets. So I don't have any problem. Azad says, Zach Collins just had the nastiest block I've seen this year. I got to check it out. I know it'll be all over social media. Let's see. Oh, Kamari says it came. Yeah, see, dude, you know how many times people, like players, families, and parents get to saying stuff that is not necessarily a reflection on what they say or think. I mean, Steph Curry's wife started talking about the finals was rigged and all this different kind of stuff when they lost. And that Anthony Davis is a grown man. And when Anthony Davis is not like he would be the first player to go and sign someplace whose family or parent didn't want him to sign there. So I don't know. We'll see. True Their Rights is Elton Brand. See, D Rose gave me watching. Yeah, watching D Rose was just the greatest. It was super thrilling. So, but that's all I'm gonna have for you guys tonight. I appreciate everybody who stopped in to watch the stream. We'll do this relatively regularly, especially after Bulls games or after Bulls news that drops. Again, I appreciate everybody that watches. I don't take anything for granted at all. God bless and peace.